Next, you'll hear our conversation with Werner Herzog. So just before we do that, because we recorded it a couple of days ago, and you were there first, and I kind of stumbled in a little bit.
No, but in fact, I think
late.
we'll play the interview from the point at which you stumble in, because up until that point.
Okay, just a little bit on the cave that we're talking about.
Yes, it's a Chauvet cave. He does explain this in the thing, but it is essentially a cave in France that, as far as we know, contains the oldest known cave paintings, cave drawings. And because for a long time the cave was completely sealed up, then it was found by accident, and then they opened it up. They discovered what they had in there. Access to the cave is very, very limited, because it turns out that human breath causes the drawings that have remained undisturbed for thousands and thousands of years, causes them to decay. So they only allow people in twice a year, and it's for a limited amount of time. So Herzog, being the great documentarian as well as the great dramatist that he is, managed to persuade them, look, in one of these I want to go in and film it, because most people will never get to see the inside of this cave. Let me go do it. And of course he did it in the standard Herzog way, which is somewhere in that cave is the abyss, is the human soul, is looking into the existential nightmare of beyond and seeing the whole of the human soul.
Okay, that's enough teeing up. I think we've got the drift.
Hello, Werner. I'm Simon. I'm sorry I'm late. I had a school run to do. And I would like to say this was a fantastic film. And the one thing that Mark always talks about in 3D is talking to everybody, you never get to the end of a film, an ordinary 2D film, and think, boy, I wish that was in 3D. Well, I watched your film in 2D, and boy, I wish I'd seen it in 3D. So I think maybe 3D was invented. It was a gift for Werner Herzog to make this film, because I thought at the end of this film, I'm never going to get a chance to go to these caves. I will never go in. I want every sensory delight that is available for me to experience these extraordinary caves. So I feel as though I have been deprived by only watching it in 2D. 3D, it's a triumph.
The beauty of the film, in a way, is that when I leave the theater after a screening, and I have seen 2 or 3, nobody talks about a film. This is wonderful. They all talk having been in this cave. Everybody only talks about the cave. And this is the best of all compliments. It's not a movie anymore. It's an experience that you will never have before or after.
I think it's the fact that we are never going to be... presumably, we are not going to be allowed in our lifetime.
Me, certainly not.
We're not going to be allowed in. Therefore, I wanted smell-o-vision. I wanted surround sound. I wanted absolutely everything, because you tell the story about how extraordinary these paintings are. And I thought, well, this is my 90 minutes with these pictures. Give me everything you've got, Werner.
I gave you everything I got in me. No, and of course I gave you everything that's really in the cave. All the intensity of these paintings is unbelievable. Life and presence and drama. And of course I always have been a skeptic of 3D in movies, and I still am. I still am, in a way. In this case, the moment I walked into the cave without any camera I was allowed once before, I knew immediately this was imperative. And of course it was the idea of the producer Eric Nelson. He said we should do it in 3D, but it was not so clearly defined. The moment I stepped in it, I knew this was right. That was the only way.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here. I'm very sceptical about 3D. I've seen the film in 3D and 2D. And Werner, you know what a fan I am of your work, and I think the film's wonderful. I prefer it in 2D because I find that 3D puts a barrier between me and the image. In fact, exactly that point that you're making about talking about the cave, when I watched it in 2D, I felt more that I was in the cave, because I find that 3D makes me think I'm watching a 3D film.
You are the only in single voice. Probably you are too intellectually warped.
Yes, I'm going to make a note of that. Intellectually warped.
Very good.
I don't know what it is, but no, I think I have great joy to watch it in 3D. And 3D is not used as a big dramatic effect. It is very unobtrusive, very quiet. And you see what's also difficult when you watch 3D films and the action movies, the big action movies. They are edited like action movies. Cut. And the eye cannot follow so quickly the new 3D perspective. So editing editing has to occur in a completely different way. Yeah. Storytelling has to be different and new for 3D, and I was aware of that. And editing, I have a very, very serene pace. The rhythm of the film allows you to settle into the cave and into the drama of the bulges of the rock walls. There's never a 2D wall. There's never a flat wall. You've got dramatic bulges and niches. And the artists, what's really important, the artists of that time utilized a bulge, for example, as a neck of a bison that is charging you, and there's a niche and a shy horse is coming out of it. So it is part of the art, part of the drama.
Just one other point, away a bit from the 3D. I wonder if there will be some people. I mean, my first reaction when I saw these pictures was they are so awe-inspiring. They are so brilliantly drawn. They're almost made for a filmmaker to go in and take pictures. They're almost too good. You know, I'm convinced that they're all genuine and everything, because you explain how in the aging process in the film they're absolutely 100% genuine. But they are extraordinary images, almost as though they were drawn for a filmmaker. I mean, you make the point in the film about it being an animation. That's what they look like, stills from an animation. It's almost too good.
Yes, like hints of movement, yes. like phases of an animation.
You must have been astonished when you saw them.
Of course, yes. It's kind of, how can I say, the first time I went in, I knew somehow what was going to expect me because I had seen photos. But it's so totally awe-inspiring. You just don't know what to do next. And the strange thing, it looks so fresh, and it looks so recently abandoned, that you get the feeling there are eyes upon you. And many of the scientists have the same notion, and in particular the first 3 discoverers had that feeling they were being watched. It's very mysterious.
Do you think that, I mean, it's interesting because obviously, you know, your heritage was in drama, but you've made a lot of documentaries, and you've made some films which sort of straddle the divide between drama and documentary. And it seems to me that you approach them all with the same sense of drama, of, you know, what you refer to as ecstatic truth. Do you see them all as one body of work, the dramas and the documentaries?
Yes, sure. I mean, many of my documentaries are feature films in disguise. Sure. Of course, the film about Chauvet Cave, Cave of Forgotten Dreams, is a film where you cannot really go completely wild, with one exception. There's a postscript which is completely and utterly wild. All of a sudden the postscript steps into pure science fiction and shows you mutant albino crocodiles next to a nuclear plant. But it has to do with perception. It has to do with perception, and that's the charm of it, that it's not just a whim of filmmaking, but it goes pretty wild.
You know, you said just earlier on, just when Simon was coming in, you said you felt like the child that had walked out and the gold coins were raining down on him suddenly. It does seem to be that at a sort of fairly late stage in your life, suddenly things really are falling into play. Like one project is following the next really fast. All the things that
I'm already doing some more films. I'm in the middle of doing Death Row. I have filmed with inmates on death row in Texas and in Florida, and it's just absolutely like looking into the darkest abysses, and wherever you turn, it's a deeper and even more deep abyss. And somehow looking into this cave is also like a gazing into an abyss of time that is almost unfathomable for us. And when I say unfathomable, the passage of time in the cave, for example, you have charcoal painting of a reindeer, and it's superimposed by another one and completed somehow. And now through radiocarbon dating, we know that one reindeer was completed by someone else 5,000 years later. It's just unbelievable. And you can date it now fairly certain, whether there are swipe marks of a torch. You see, when a torch burns down, you can reanimate the flame by swiping it, like clearing a wick of a candle. And they took tiny fragments of carbon and dated it. And we know at this place somebody swiped the torch 28,400 years ago.